Hi guys, Dr. Mo here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a special guest who's going to talk to us about life in general, life on her terms, and the things that she's encountered, with hopes that it will help each and every one of you. Can you please just give us your name?
My name is Keisha Woodward Anderson.
Keisha, we want to just find out a little bit about your upbringing.
I'm the youngest of three. I was raised in Columbia, South Carolina. I have one surviving sibling. I have an older brother now. My sister is deceased. And I was educated in the Richland County public school system.
Awesome. So growing up, would you say that you were the lower, medium, or higher socioeconomic background?
I'll say medium.
So you had interaction, if not mom and dad in the home, you had interaction with both parents?
Both of my parents were in the home.
Awesome. In terms of your health, have you encountered anything others would potentially think that it was a huge challenge, something that they could not overcome, or something that was a bit baffling for you?
In April 2022, I was diagnosed with stage 2 triple negative invasive carcinoma, which is a very aggressive form of breast cancer.
Was this something that you discovered on your own, or did you go to the doctor for your annual physical? How did you find?
Well, actually, my annual mammogram was scheduled for June. I have it every June. And I happened to be playing with my dog, and my dog actually discovered my tumor. He scratched at that breast, and a few days later, a lump, came towards the top of the skin, and it went down, and about a week later it came back. So that prompted me to go to my primary care physician to get it checked out, who then sent me to do a breast ultrasound, which ultimately led to a biopsy that confirmed that I had breast cancer.
Did you experience any other symptoms prior to, or everything was status quo, just normal?
Everything was normal. Monthly self-checks. I'm pretty conscious of what I put on my body, in my body. I try to keep up with all my yearly medical exams. So as far as I was concerned, I was considered to be a pretty, healthy person.
Awesome.
So it was totally unexpected.
In terms of the treatment, so you get diagnosed on one day. What was the course of treatment? Were you immediately pulled into this whirlwind of doctor visit, treatment, or did you get a clinical navigator to help you navigate the treatment? Exactly what does that look like for you?
Well, I had the biopsy on a Wednesday, and it was confirmed on Friday. They set me up with the nurse navigator. Nurse navigator set me up with the physician to talk about options as far as surgery. From there, I went I was introduced to my oncologist, and it was just like appointment after appointment, test after test, scan after scan, so we would know exactly what I was dealing with. And I started chemo. I was diagnosed in April. I started in May. I asked, could I start after my daughter's graduation? Because, I wanted to be, feeling well, present and accounted for, for her graduation. But because the cancer I had was so aggressive and the tumor had already started to grow, I couldn't wait that long. So I started chemo approximately 2.5 weeks after my diagnosis.
Okay, and in terms of hearing that diagnosis, how did you feel when the doctor told you you have cancer?
Well, when I went to the surgeon, and he came in, and I actually knew the surgeon because I had worked with him before in a medical, setting. And when I saw his face, and he said he only knew one person by my name, around the same age, and he was praying that it wasn't me. So, when he said that, your heart kind of sinks a little bit. And then when I looked at his face, I knew, what he was about to tell me, wouldn't be good. So he explained that it was triple negative, that it was very aggressive. It has the likelihood of returning more so than any other cancers. So at that time, it just felt like the weight of the world, was on my shoulders, because the room went from like this big to, this small. And, at one point we had to take a break because it was just too much, to digest. My fiance was with me, and he actually had to leave the room because it was just
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it was just overwhelming, for all of us. It was just, because I just asked, I told him, I said, I have parents that are aging, I'm a mother, so I just need to know, point blank and frank what I'm dealing with. Don't, sugarcoat it. So he respected my wishes and told me what was what, and, it was overwhelming.
Did I would imagine so. I mean, getting some news of that magnitude, definitely unexpected. It would be one thing if you kind of suspected it, but I mean, to have your dog, God bless that dog.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a plus in being a pet owner. But also just finding that information, and I would imagine that it's very overwhelming at times. And in terms of, so you get the diagnosis, you get your nurse navigator, what happens next?
From my my surgeon, my general surgeon explained to me that my oncologist would navigate this entire, series of events. So, no matter what we discussed, she could overrule everything, that she's the top of the tier, throughout this entire process. So from there, I went and met with my oncologist, and she sent me out for further testing. I guess that way so they can determine what form of chemo, how often, and so forth.
Okay. At any point were you questioned about your insurance or your ability to pay?
No.
Were you given options in terms of, do you want to go through surgery, what type of surgery, or were you told that surgery was your only option?
Well, like I said, I asked for, all the narratives, and I did some research on my own, and so I went down the rabbit hole of the options that were given to me here. And I had a very close friend, like sometimes God sends people in your life to confirm what you're already thinking. We always say, God, send me a sign, send me a sign. So I was already thinking, as far as surgery, about going other places for second opinions, because, what I was told, I was like, God, I know it has to be something, more than this. So that prompted me to research. And I had a dear friend, Gwendolyn, that, said, hey, we can get on the road. I can drive you wherever, we need to go. We can go get, second opinions and just, confirm that. She said, either it's going to confirm this is the only route to go, or, that you have other options. So that prompted me to go get second opinions 2 other places. And ultimately, I ended up doing my surgery and reconstruction down in Charleston, South Carolina, versus here in Columbia.
And I know that this is very touchy, very sensitive for women. What was the determining factor in terms of deciding to go with the reconstruct?
For me, when I had I elected for the double mastectomy, because they were saying, oh, you're young, you can have, the lumpectomy, we can totally, get everything, and, you'll be fine. But upon research, you find out with a lumpectomy, you run a higher risk, of the cancer returning. So I just figured, if I was praying to God to do his part, I was going to do my part. So at that point, I was like, nope, doing a double, mastectomy, getting rid of them. And I just knew, for me, the reconstruction I'm not gonna say it was, for vanity or anything, because anybody that has been through cancer or any chronic illness will tell you vanity and modesty goes out the window because you're getting poked, prodded, so all of that's gone. But for me, I live a somewhat active lifestyle, and I just felt like I didn't want to deal with the prosthesis, or the prosthetics and different things like that. But I've been very open and transparent about my journey on Facebook, and like I said on one of my posts, my hat's off to my warrior sisters and survivors that have a mastectomy and elect not to reconstruct, because that speaks volumes that you have that much confidence in yourself just to be this is the new me now. Either you take it, or you leave it. And prior to my reconstruction, like the last week before reconstruction, I walked around without my prosthetics, and it's a certain amount of freedom you gain from walking around, like that. Of course, Absolutely. You get the stares, you get the questions, but I welcome the questions more so than the stares. I'd rather have a conversation instead of you just like, wow, she doesn't have, breast or whatever. But that, it didn't change my mind from wanting to do the reconstruction, but I definitely have a high amount of respect to my sisters that have fought or are still fighting that opt not to reconstruct.
Do you believe that the decision regarding reconstruction versus not should be made solely by the woman, or should she also consult with her partner regarding her decision?
Oh no, your body, it's your body. Take it or leave it. I mean, all of us have, flaws. So if, as your partner, I love your whole self, flaws and all. And as my partner, breast or no breast, you should be able to accept me and love me as well. And, I never asked, I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And he was like, whatever you decide to do, I support, you on it. This is your, your decision, whatever you're comfortable with, I'm comfortable as well.
Awesome. In terms of the treatment, can you just share a little bit about the grim reality of the treatment? What to expect, some of the things that you encountered, things that others should know that are embarking upon treatment?
I'm glad you asked that question, because one of my icks, how was chemo? How is chemo? How is it going? And you have that blank stare, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, Holy Spirit, activate, because I don't want the first thing to fly out my mouth, because I'm like, are you kidding me? How is chemo? So, initially they start you off slow to make sure your body can handle, the drugs they're putting in your system. So my first round of chemo was every Thursday. So when I first started, and they started me out slow to make sure I didn't have an adverse reaction to it, I was one of the first ones hooked up, and I watched everybody leave. So I laid in that chair from 9:30 to 10 a.m. to about 2 to 2:30 p.m. every Thursday. So, and people need to understand the point of chemotherapy is to kill the cancer, but hopefully not kill you, because it damages your organs, your heart. It has the potential to weaken your bones. So we're dealing with a whole nother plethora of things after I've completed chemo. I just had 3 scans yesterday. I have a bone density scan next week. I will have different scans every 6 months. So chemo is very, taxing. The nausea, the fatigue, insomnia, and then you have the chemo drugs, and then you have all these other medications to counteract the side effects
of the chemo
drugs. Someone like me, I'm not big on taking medications. Just, I'd rather try to find a natural, holistic, way. And so when your oncologist tells you, she doesn't doubt that any of that works, and she doesn't knock it. But while you're on chemo, you can't do any of this stuff because she doesn't need anything to counter react with the chemotherapy drugs that I need to let the chemo, do its job. So, you can expect the hair loss. I never realized how important your eyelashes were until I lost them. My nails and toenails turned about the color of your shoe. I've had a couple of we call each other breasties, that have lost their fingernails, their toenails. You deal with neuropathy. Some people I didn't have the neuropathy as bad, but some have described it as like walking on broken glass or needles constantly. You have the arthritic joint pain. Then you have, and that's just the physical stuff. Then you have the emotional, aspect of it, especially, as a mother. At that time, my daughters were 16 and 17, about to be 17 and 18. So, my sons are, grown. One is married, one is working and living on his own. So they were pretty much situated. But as a parent, you're wondering if you've trained your, children and equipped them with everything that they need to know in life in the event that I don't come through the other side of this. The hardest thing for me was having to sit down with my son and say, hey, I have to make you my power of attorney. In the case that it comes to, the end of life, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. If your sisters are still minors, this is what I need you, to do. I need you to come with me so I can place you on my accounts. So that's some of the difficult stuff you deal with. And my parents, are older, and then you have to say that, the ones that you're supposed to be the caregiver for, that, now you become the one, needing the care. So, it was definitely, and still is, it's a faith walk. And God just puts people in your life for a reason. And, certain people, we always had a good time, we laughed. But when this happened, then you understand why certain people were brought, into your life.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the financial impact, I know that I know because I've cared for a lot of people that have had different types of cancer. But what was your personal, how has cancer or the diagnosis impacted your finances?
Well, I haven't really been able, to work like normal. Luckily, my dad is very, old school, and from a young age, he said nothing or no one is worth your last dollar. So he said, I don't care if you save $1 a pay period and put it in savings, $5, $2, save. So because I had my nest egg helped, my fiance really stepped up as far as finances and covered, my household expenses. My ex-husband was really, support, because he was like, hey, whatever. When I say I had a village, a great village, I had an awesome village. Whatever you need, if you're not okay, the girls are not going to be okay. And if the girls aren't okay, I'm not okay. So, whatever differences we've had in the past, we're going to pull together in this moment, for you to make sure you have any and everything you need. So I was one of the fortunate ones. Some people that I attended, chemo with, not as fortunate. It's not as many resources as I feel should be available. Information is not widely spread, that's my opinion. So it's taxing.
Okay. What would be the one thing that you would like to tell people to not do as it pertains to speaking to or encountering or interacting with a person that's diagnosed with cancer?
Oh, I really have a laundry. I have a laundry list almost.
But please share. Please
Oh
share
my
because I think
gosh,
that the vast majority, unless you've experienced it, you don't know.
Oh yeah, I got and it's not too, because some people, they really don't know. And sometimes when you don't know what to say, it's okay not to say anything. Sometimes silence is just, golden. If you just say, hey, I'm praying for you, or hey, I'm thinking of you. Hey, if it's anything I can do, let me know. And the thing that kind of got up under my skin the most, hey, you didn't call me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm fighting a chronic, disease. The person that's going through their storm, they shouldn't do the calling, in my opinion. They shouldn't do the reaching. If you text me, message me, or whatever, I see the messages. But if I'm feeling bad, because your second day of chemo, especially when you're going weekly after your infusion, that second day you might be down, until the next week. So I shouldn't have to apologize if I didn't call you. I shouldn't have to apologize, if I didn't reach out. Or, hey girl, how is the hair situation? When once again, if you're fighting, you're in a fight for your life, basically. Hair is the least of your, concern. I already spoke of how is chemo, or, I had, everybody assumes that, chemo is, just this dreadful place. And I had someone that came to chemo for something else other than cancer related. Oh my gosh, everybody just walking around there, with bald heads. I mean, people just, they don't think. They just say such offensive. I mean, they don't view it as offensive, I'm sure. At least I hope so, because I think if you loved me and respected me and really wanted the best for me, in my battle and in my fight, just certain things shouldn't be said. So just remember, what I told everybody in my circle: treat me as Keisha, not as my diagnosis. I am not my diagnosis. It's my life, my fight, and my journey, and I'm going to navigate it accordingly. God first, but then everything after that, I'm going to navigate it, my way.
Absolutely.
And, if you want to be a part of the journey, great. If you can't respect the way I'm doing my journey, and during the journey, God's going to reveal a lot of people. I've received support from people I never thought would, support me. And then some of the people I thought would be my strongest supporters were not there as I felt they should be. I think one of the heartbreaking situations for me, like some people, if they work or whatever, I understand it. And people have to be real careful about what they put on social media. Because on social media, you live your life out loud. So imagine seeing people you feel near and dear to you, and they do any and everything they want to do. But when it came to one of the most important, when I rang my bell in November that I had completed chemo, so from the start of chemo, to that point, you're laying in your chair and you hear other people, ringing their bell. You just pray that you will get to that point to ring your bell. It seems like so unattainable with what you're going through at that time. So for people that were close to me and they didn't show up for that day, you know, that did something. And then, you know, revelation that I had to learn for myself: don't expect you out of people, you know.
Exactly.
So sometimes, a lot of times, I expect the type of friend that I am or supporter that I am. And when I didn't get that at the time in my life when I needed it, it was hurtful. So, it brought back in the reason, season, lifetime. So you have to reevaluate, what category that people should be in, and you just have to leave them there.
Absolutely.
Unapologetically. You just have to leave them there.
What would be that one thing or two or three things that you would tell a person that just got their diagnosis that would help them through their journey?
What's going to help you through your journey? Find, your happy space. Whatever makes you happy, whether it's a genre of music, whether it's a certain fragrance, a book, a scripture, a poem, whatever, when you're in that valley moment, is going to bring you back to your happy space, because you're going to have to pull on that and rely on that throughout your entire journey and beyond, because self-doubt, and when you read up on your diagnosis and understand how it's going to affect you, how it can come back, your mind will take you into certain dark places, and that's fine. You just can't stay there. Don't let people tell you you can't be angry, because you can. Don't, just because you have doubt when things become difficult, don't let anybody tell you you're not a believer or a person of faith, because you are. Everybody has had doubt, and if they haven't, they're not being honest. Navigate your journey your way. Ask questions. Know that there's a higher power than the white coats. Be involved in your treatment plan. Question your treatment plan. Question and research other options. Read up on your chemotherapy drugs. And, like I did a week before I started chemo, I went to the beach. I had a good time. I didn't do anything cancer related. Live your best life. It's only thing that separates our birth date and our death date is our dash. So it's up to you how you live your dash. Live your dash, your way. As long as you're not causing harm to yourself or anyone else, no one can dictate how you do your journey, how you navigate your journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insight.